Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today, I am joined by Candace, and we're going to be talking about episode 7 of the Kindred TV show.
Hi.
Let's just immediately get right into it. We start off with Sarah not letting Carrie read, which just like they ruined Sarah. They really did. I just
They
have to.
ruin the fuck out of Sarah, dude. Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand why they try to like make her a combatant toward Dana and Dana
I
a
know.
combative toward her. Like, instead of them uplifting and inspiring each other. Like, I have so many notes about Aunt Sarah from this episode, and it just breaks my heart.
She's just mean.
She
Like,
is for no reason.
no reason. Like, they made her like vindictive.
Yep,
And like that's not who she is as a character.
at
I
all.
don't understand.
It's because Dana already has a mother in this universe, but it's not like
Mhm.
her mother is motherly in this universe, so they could have still
Yeah.
had Aunt Sarah. Like they could have shown black solidarity. They could have shown black woman solidarity, right? Black
Mhm.
femme solidarity, which is like a big deal, but instead they chose to pit these two incredible characters against each other, which like Aunt Sarah has arguably been there the longest, right? She says, I've been on this plantation the longest out of anybody. So she would be the person who has the realest info. Why would she be vindictive? Like, are they trying to tell us that she's been vindictive to slaves this entire time and everybody that's been sold off, it's because she's awful? Like,
Yeah.
what? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. And then she
it's
like
really gross.
blames she's like blaming Olivia and blaming Dana for all the troubles that occurred. And I'm like, no. Like you blame Tom,
Yeah.
the one causing the problems.
Yeah. And like Aunt Sarah does have a moment where she's like, no, when, with the whole reading thing, right? Which, like,
Yeah.
first of all, like, why aren't they reading in the cookhouse?
Yeah.
Like, Tom never goes in the cookhouse. Why are they reading in whatever other room that is? I'm like, where are
That's the
they? Like,
Jezebel cabin.
that's the Jezebel cabin. I'm like,
Yep.
why? Anyway, like, that's the one place on the plantation outside of his home that he would go. Why would
Yeah.
you read in there? Right? Like, that's number one. And then number two, like, the idea she won't let Carrie read. Like, Dana wins that like that's like a 2-second argument in the book where
Yeah.
she's like, I'm worried for my daughter. You don't understand. Like, all my other kids have been sold off for me. I can't lose another one. And Dana's like, listen, you might lose another one, whether you want to or not, because he's volatile and you never know what's coming. At least if she can read, like, she's empowered. And that's how she wins over Sarah. It's like
Yeah.
a one and done conversation. And
Mhm.
instead they're just like, not only is this mute girl gonna just be silent for the rest of her life, but also she can't read. Like, what? Like, I don't
I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't understand.
They like destroyed the storyline and like are attempting to pick up the pieces.
Yep.
Like they're laying the foundation of picking up the pieces in this episode, and it's so bad.
It's terrible. Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't have just told the story the way that it was. All they had to do was just give you more exposition. It's not as though it couldn't have stretched to however many seasons they wanted. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a waste of time. Considering how everything kind of wraps in this episode, like,
Mhm.
it's a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
It feels like you've been sent on a wild goose chase and there was never a goose.
I'm just sad. I'm upset. I'm
Yeah.
hurt and I'm
Yeah.
offended.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Deeply.
And then we've got Luke being upset with Tom and like yelling at him.
Which, sure.
Yeah, that's
I
how that
guess
would go.
I guess slaves can yell in the face of their masters and not get fucking beat. All right, I guess.
Yeah.
Fine. Let's
I know.
suspend all belief in reason.
I don't understand how we have to have like the distinct like lack of reality now. Like why is
Yeah.
that happening?
I don't know. And then like you've got this situation with Kevin talking to Dana, like Dana's like, because fucking Tom is like, we're going into town. And Dana's like, oh no, like, don't go into town. Like, you can't, oh, what, can I come? Whatever. And I'm like, this is so stupid, man. This is so fucking
Yeah.
dumb. So like Tom's like, we're going into town. And Kevin's like, okay, I guess we're going into town. And like, Dana's like, don't go into town. And Kevin's like, well, I mean, we could go home
Wink wink.
to Dana. And I'm like, could you though?
I don't
Because I'm
understand.
pretty sure it doesn't work like that. Why do
Literally.
you keep asking her to take you home when you know it doesn't work like that? Like, and then like suddenly she has a purpose, right? Like she's like like all of a sudden she has this purpose, like for like saving people. She's like, I'm gonna save everyone. We
Yeah.
can't leave. If we leave, what's gonna happen, everybody? We have to save people. And I'm like, that was the best part of the book for me. The
Yeah.
best part of the book for me was the moment, which happens pretty quickly, that Dana realizes she can't save everyone. She can't make slavery go away. She can't free all of these people. It's
Hmm.
impossible. There's no way for
Yeah.
her to do that. All she can do is make sure what happens happens. That's all she
Hmm.
can do. She can't alter history. She can't change time. All she can do is make sure something that's already going to happen is guaranteed to happen. That's
Yeah.
literally all she can do to affect this world, is make sure it happens. And like, to me, that's such a much more compelling, like, plot twist and plot device, because
Yeah.
all time travel stories are about going back and killing Hitler. All time travel stories are about going back and, you know, changing that one little butterfly wing that then
Yeah.
turns into great change in the future, right? Like, even if it's in a bad
Yeah.
way, even if that's
Yeah.
like the crux of the problem of the story, every time travel story, that's it, right? What
Hmm.
do you change? What do you leave the same? Instead, this is, how do you refrain from changing when you know
Hmm.
you probably could? And
Yeah.
like, that is like revolutionary, that idea, right? Of how do you keep your cool? How do you watch these atrocities? What does that how taxing is that, right? It's partly about the realities of the recognition of what happened to our ancestors during slavery,
Hmm.
both white people and black people, right?
Hmm.
Looking back at that history and reconciling with it, knowing there is nothing you can do to change it other than change your present, right? All you can do is make sure that things are equal and better now, not then,
Hmm.
right? What's done is done. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the major themes of the book. And I don't understand why they would give that up for this show, especially in 2022 when we desperately need that reminder. Like, this is wild to me. Wild.
Yeah.
And then, like, Margaret comes by, no consequences for Dana being in Kevin's room, I guess, yet. We're like 10 minutes into the episode. I'm like, where's this bitch?
Yeah.
Where is she?
She's
You know
always around
she's
the corner.
mad. You know
Yeah.
she's salty. Like, this version of Dana thinks she's so above everyone and
I
everything.
know.
Like Margaret has to tell her. So Margaret's sister comes and
Hmm.
has to tell her to, like, Margaret's like, go get us some tea. So Dana like goes up to Aunt Sarah and is like, they need tea. Like, it's not her job to get the tea. Like, the book Dana was like, you know what? I'm on a plantation. I'm technically somebody's slave. I'm going to keep my head low, do my
Yeah.
fucking work. At least I'm not in the fields, and call it
Yep.
a fucking day. Meanwhile, this lady, every fucking 5 minutes is like, fuck this. I'm having a problem. This sucks. I'm a slave. It's like, yeah. How
Yeah.
long have you been here? How many
I just
months?
I can't imagine like being in this situation and like imagine I'm like if I myself was back in that time and had to be playing this type of role. Like I couldn't imagine being like, yeah, I know that you're making food for every single person on this entire plantation, but like could you pause for a minute and do my job for me?
Can you
Like,
get me some hot water? Literally, the easiest thing to do in
yeah,
this time period is put a fucking kettle. And then she touches the kettle and she's surprised it's hot. I'm like, it's in a fucking
I
stove.
don't
It's in a fire.
understand.
Why are you
I
surprised that
don't
it's hot?
I don't understand.
Like,
Like
yeah.
have you never had an all metal pot that didn't have a real handle? Like, have you always been so privileged that that's never existed for you?
Have you never put a fucking cookie sheet in the oven to bake yourself some
I,
Nestle's Toll House
maybe
and
she
do
doesn't
you
cook.
just reach in with your bare hand? Like, what is,
Like, the most privileged little
oh,
Dana always apparently had a personal chef, so she doesn't know how to do anything.
yo, it's killing me. Like,
I
it's
don't
killing
get
me
it.
how they're characterizing her, man. Like, even the most
Yeah,
privileged person knows that a fucking oven and a stove is fucking hot. Like, I don't,
I don't get it.
like, I just, it is rough. Like, it's rough. And then,
Yeah.
like, so then Tom takes, I hope I'm not jumping ahead.
No, you're good.
So we've got the situation where, like, Tom brings Luke, Kevin, and Rufus to, like, the
And
plot of
Nigel.
land. Oh, and Nigel, to the plot of
Mhm.
land where he grew up.
Mhm.
And, like, you're looking at this, like, barren wasteland.
Yeah.
And for some reason, these writers choose to have Tom Whalen
Mhm.
look at Kevin in his fucking eyeballs
Mhm.
and say, Luke was the closest thing I had to a brother growing up.
Mhm.
And in my mind, I'm like, I have read so many books about slavery,
Yeah.
up to and including, there's a children's book that my uncle bought me when I was a kid because he was like, you need to understand your history and how fucked up things were, but you're
Yeah.
also a child. So here's a kid's book. And I think it's called Christmas in the Big House is what it's called. And
Mhm.
it's about like how slave children were treated
Mhm.
back then when they were house slaves, and
Mhm.
how there were certain people that weren't allowed in the house. And like, it's very much like a soft touch because it's for kids,
Mhm.
but like it talks about the realities of how things were back then for people. And I don't understand why Tom Whalen would refer to Luke as his sibling. Like, there used to be whole ass mammies that would
Yeah.
nurse and raise the children of the home. Their
Mhm.
children weren't siblings to these kids that were basically their kids, even
Yeah.
though they like literally raised them and nursed them from their own breasts.
Yeah.
Like, they were never called siblings, maybe friends, playmates, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
something like that. But like, no one would ever confuse a white child for a black child. Like,
Yeah.
I've even read texts where they call slaves litter mates, where like multiple slaves are pregnant and have babies at the same time, and they're called
Mhm.
litter mates. Like, we're like we were animals.
What?
So I don't understand where this guy is getting off saying it was the closest thing I had to a brother. Like,
Yeah.
what? And then it suggests that Luke came to this new estate with Tom, which is something I think we talked about last time. Is
Yeah.
like, how, I don't understand. Like, what is this? Like, did Luke come with Tom?
I don't
Like,
I don't know. I don't know.
so then like I feel like this show is like trying to confuse classism for racism. Like like he
Yeah.
treats Luke like he's just poor. But Luke isn't poor, he's a slave. He works for you.
Yeah.
Like, he's the closest thing I had to a brother. I'm like,
I just feel like
what?
this can't I just I don't know. I feel like this the writers or whoever like went in with the red marker either A is white and racist, B has never had a single slavery class ever, or C is not American and does not understand the foundation of American slavery.
Something, I don't know. It feels willful at this point, especially when
Yeah.
you go back to the main house, right? You go back to the plantation,
Mhm.
and like Margaret's sister is there, who doesn't have an Irish accent, by the way, for some reason,
Yeah,
even
why's the
though
brother got the Irish accent?
Jake. So later on,
Her cousin.
they call him cousin, and I think in the book, I feel like they said brother in the book. I could be wrong. I'm not gonna like,
Yeah.
I won't, nitpick over that. But like, why is he so different, right? Like, why is he dirt poor? And like, Margaret's supposed to be poor. Margaret's not supposed to have money, but then her sister shows up and like looks all fancy and has this like beautiful dress, and then she's gossiping with Dana about Tom Whalen.
Yeah.
In what universe
I
does
don't
a white
know.
woman gossip with a slave about her master?
I don't know. I don't get it.
What?
And then she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm a liberal." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!
Ludicrous.
What?
Ludicrous.
What?"
Ludicrous. Like,
Ah.
I don't, what kind of revisionist history? Like, I don't understand. Like, Margaret's older sister, right? She objects to Tom's behavior, right?
Mhm.
But then, like, doesn't mind that Tom puts their cousin to work under a black slave. Sure.
Yeah. Also, I have to
Okay.
mention, I she said liberal thinkers, but isn't this pre-party switch, or do I just not understand the meaning of liberal? Because
So,
like,
so Democrat and Republican used to mean inverted things. A
yeah,
Republican was a liberal, and a Democrat was a conservative
yeah, but does
until like
liberal?
Kennedy, I think, for a long time. But like
I don't know.
liberal, I'm not sure. I can't swear to that,
Okay, I
but I
just
feel like she would have said something like, "I've read abolitionist papers."
yeah,
That would have been a smarter thing to say, to
yeah,
like give you the understanding that this lady is educated. But that
yeah,
also doesn't make sense because Margaret definitely does not come from a place that feels like that. So how this
yeah.
lady suddenly became so fucking open-minded, I have no idea.
I don't either. Like, it just for me, it seems like very modern to call someone like a liberal. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And
absolutely.
so it's just that was strange for me. And then like her being like, "Yeah, my husband's a doctor, so we're rich and also like believe everyone's a human." And I'm like,
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know
We
what you're
still
trying to
we
do
still
here.
have racism in modern medicine, but yeah, go
Yeah,
off.
go off.
Your husband in 1815 is so woke that he
Yeah,
likes black people and white people the same. Good for you.
yeah, sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And then you go and visit your sister's plantation because you're so comfortable with it. So then we're in town
Yeah.
and they go to a barber shop
Hmm.
and like they're in the barber shop and I'm like, why are there black people that are barbers in this barber shop? Like, that's a role that's like a higher up role and they're all in like fancy clothes and I'm like, are these
I don't know.
like slaves didn't work in barbershops. Slaves did hard labor. Like
Yeah.
white men would have done that job. Why are there slaves in this barbershop? So you take Kevin to a black barbershop in town, which I'm like, what? And then
Yeah.
like then there's like there's like black people in the street that are all wearing like finery. They're all wearing like top hats and like vests and like brocade and shit. And like all of them are talking and palling around with Nigel and they're all doing like their high fives and shit. And I'm like, so Tom Whalen would have been fine. Like anyone at this time would have been fine with their slave outside on the street being boisterous with other slaves, just lazing
Yeah.
about doing absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, like that was an extremely gross and stereotypical way to view black people was lazy, right?
Hmm.
Lazy is one of the things that we've been called for centuries,
Hmm.
right? Like there's like the black Sambo archetype, right? That we kind of
Hmm.
discussed black like harmful black stereotypes, a few
Hmm.
weeks ago. So like the Sambo stereotype, part of that is that Sambos are that they're shiftless. That's what they're called, shiftless, right? They're lazy. They just sleep and eat all day, right? They just like laze about in the field and they're always trying to have a good time. They're always japing and stuff. Like that's absolutely a negative stereotype. So the fact that like these like this group of black dudes are standing outside of a barbershop, like there are certain places in this country right now where perfectly free black men cannot congregate in one area or police roll by and go, what's this about? But sure,
Yeah.
in
Sure.
1915, 1916, when we're slaves, we can absolutely just lay around in the fucking street and be chilling outside of a fucking barbershop and be barbers. I even looked it up. I got so incensed by this that I looked it up. I was like, what roles did slaves fill before slavery ended? And it was all industrial jobs. It was like,
Hmm.
because corporations also had slaves. There were
Yeah.
companies that owned slaves, right? Like the corporation themselves would be the slaveholder. So like, for example, like cotton companies, right? They were slave masters that built their companies on slave labor, right? Which is
Hmm.
why you still see people fighting like minimum wage and stuff like that, right? That's just a ripple effect of what used to be, right? Like
Hmm.
our whole thing with unionization and labor laws, like all of that came about because slavery ended and those people wanted to still get free labor out of people and white people started being affected. And people were like, well, hold on, if the white man's affected, we
Yeah.
gotta we gotta we gotta revisit this, right? Like that's why all of that happened. So the
Hmm.
idea that like any of this is going on and like these white dudes are like, yeah, it's fine, go ahead, I'd completely trust you as a slave to shave my face. Like, okay, you trust me with a straight razor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool, let's roll the dice, see what happens. Like, are you kidding me?
By
Like,
the point that that was all happening, I was still like half asleep watching this, so I didn't even notice like anybody else in this like freaking barbershop because I was like, why are we here? I was not
dude,
paying attention. I was scrolling through my phone.
especially like freedmen and women, right?
Yeah.
There were definitely freed men and women. I'm not saying there were no freed black people that wouldn't have been walking
Not
around in
this many.
finery. A, not this many. B,
Mhm.
certainly not in this white ass city. They had
Yeah.
their own areas that they would go to and that they would be in. And then occasionally they'd have to go to white areas and have to deal with those people, right?
Mhm.
Like if Olivia can't get a fucking like a good break, if Olivia can't just like live her life as a freed woman back then
Mhm.
why is it suddenly different when you get to town? Like
I
I don't
don't
think so, dude.
know.
And then like if you're a slave owner, the last thing you want, and like Tom says this in a previous episode and in the book several times, I don't want my slaves consorting with freed people because it's
Mhm.
going to give them ideas.
Yeah.
Freed people were like exorcised from the area. They were like
Mhm.
cut off from other slaves because slaves would get the idea, you know what? If that person can be free, maybe I can be free. And then suddenly you have no control over your plantation. That's why you have to rule with a fucking iron fist, right? That's why
Mhm.
families got sold off. That's why in the first chapter of the book or second chapter of the book, when
Mhm.
Dana goes back in time, the second time and flees Rufus's house and gets to that fucking cabin in the woods,
Mhm.
those white dudes fucking go for it because the man that they're chasing is still a slave, but
Yeah.
Alice's mother is free. And like that's a problem because it encourages ideas. So all of that was just absolute garbage. And it was very hard for me to watch. Like,
Yeah. These last two episodes that we're gonna talk about, there's parts where I was just like barely paying attention because I'm like, I honestly honestly don't feel like I need to pay attention much
Yep.
because
It's all nonsense.
it's all nonsense. It's like none of this I feel like is amounting to anything.
No.
None of it makes sense. I
Nope.
don't understand why it's
Me either.
happening.
No.
I am just confused. And then like there's this whole thing where he's like, "Yeah, my barber comes," or no, he's like, I guess he said something about his the other guy that showed up.
Hmm.
He has a slave that's his barber
At home.
at home.
Hmm.
And I was like, "What?"
Okay. Sure. So
Okay.
these aren't your slaves at this barber
I
shop?
don't
I don't.
understand. I'm so confused.
So then, like, they go for drinks after they're shaven, and like
Mhm.
Rufus drinks too much, and he's still 10 years old for whatever reason. And Tom tells him, "Go home. Nigel's going to take you home. Like, fuck this. I've had enough. Like, you're leaving."
Yeah.
So he kicks him out. And then, like, he's trying to, but before he does that, he's trying to get Rufus to, like, look at this big titty lady that's, like, serving drinks, which, like, no hate.
Yeah.
She had a nice body. I get it, right? Like,
Mhm.
I get it. He's trying to he's trying to man him up. He's trying to toughen him up, right?
Yeah.
Back then, men used to pay for their sons to go to prostitutes and stuff to like lose their virginity. So like I get it, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a historical fact.
Yeah.
People still do that these days, or
Yeah.
I've heard. Like I have friends that have had that experience.
What?
Yeah, where their dad was like, "You're 15, you need to toughen up," and it was like, "I'm gonna leave you in this room with this mysterious woman you've never seen before." Like, yeah, people absolutely still do that to their children, which I
That's
don't understand. That's horrifying to me. Uh, but
good God. Okay.
can confirm, I know people this has happened to that are under 40. Um,
What the
so
hell?
like, yeah, yeah. So like,
Later podcast.
yes, later
Topic.
podcast. So like, he has him leave, and then it's just
Mhm.
Kevin and Tom, and Tom's like getting real close to the truth of Kevin, and he just kind of
Yeah.
keeps trying to pull it out of him, and Kevin is a fucking idiot, so he doesn't see that this guy is like trying to deconstruct his story. So he's like, "Hey, I've got a show I want to take you to. I was hoping Rufus would watch, but you know, let's go to this show." So they go to a show in the basement of this bar,
Yeah.
and it's a whole bunch of like fancy highfalutin white dudes, and they bring a black man out who has tons of scars on his back from being whipped a million times
Mhm.
and looks desperate as fuck in the face. Clearly has
Yeah.
been mistreated for a long time, right? Has some fresh wounds on him. And they pour like moonshine or something down his throat and force him to drink the moonshine or whatever poison it is, whatever it is that they're
Yeah.
trying to dose him with. And then they're like, the reason that the episode is called, I believe, Jane, is
Mhm.
because Jane is the name of the slave woman. So like that's what I'm saying. Like every episode
Mhm.
has a woman's name attached to it because like it's like all of the women that get like horrifically fucking like
Yeah.
brutalized in the show, because the show is absolutely fetishizing black violence against black women.
Mhm.
1,000% fetishizes it. So they bring this lady Jane out of the back, which like again, not in the book. And they're like, "We're gonna bet on how long it'll take the negress to be felled and had." So
Yeah.
basically they're expecting this black man to go crazy enough to beat her into submission and rape her in front of everybody. And that's the show that he wanted to show to his child. That's the show that he forces Kevin to watch. Like they cut away from most of it, but you
Mhm.
see her get hit in the face and you hear her screams over and over again, and they
Mhm.
sound increasingly desperate, and it's obvious that she's getting raped. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why is this such a heavy theme in this show? You could easily just talk about it. You could easily talk about somebody threatening it, right? You could do
Yeah.
literally anything but show it, and instead they fucking do this over and over again. Yet again, once more, a black person committing violence against another black person,
Mhm.
a black man visiting sexual terror upon a black woman in the name of white people, while white people look on and watch, and they're somehow absolved of it, right? Because it's not their fault. They're not the ones
Yeah.
that are hurting this lady.
The thing
It's this buck or whatever they fucking refer to him as.
I just don't understand that this is the only thing, like the only terror we're experiencing as slavery.
I don't
As
understand.
like it's now we've had two rape scenes
Yep.
at least, and then
And
multiple,
inferred ones with Winnie.
yeah, and yeah, multiple others that have been talked about,
Yep.
but like that is the only violence we're seeing. And
Yep.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't like it. And it
Yep.
makes me uncomfortable. And it's like the thing is like if if you had these scenes, but you still had all of the other violence in it, I'd be like, yeah, okay, they just want to
Fine.
show how
They want
brutal
to
it
deepen
is.
it. Right. They
Yeah,
want to deepen, because it's
fine.
not like those things didn't happen, right? I
Correct. Yeah.
freely admit, like, you look in history books, those things absolutely existed.
Mhm.
Totally. Right?
But the fact that this is the only thing that's happening,
Yeah, fuck that. Like,
Yeah.
fuck that. No white person has done violence directly to a black person at this point in
Hmm.
this show, other than maybe a couple of slaps. And I'm just like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are you trying to say? And then you've got a super, like, almost deranged,
Hmm.
privileged black woman at the heart of the show, at the core of the show, right? Who is visiting torture and violence on other people without owning up to it. Oh, that wasn't my fault. Celeste died. That wasn't my fault. Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
absolutely your fucking fault. If you hadn't opened your fucking mouth and you hadn't interfered, right? And you had just stood there and allowed things to happen, which is honestly the point of the book, as we just discussed,
Hmm.
right? It would have been hard for you to watch, but you would have been the only person truly suffering because Winnie had already made peace with what was happening to her and was trying to make the best out of the absolute worst situation possible. Like, she
Yeah.
found herself able to accept Tom into her bed. So after the first few times that it was rape, she was like, you know what? If it's this or living in the fucking mud and working the fields, I'd rather have this.
Yeah.
So I'll do whatever it is that it takes. I'll shut up. I'll be quiet. And is that awesome? Absolutely not. But does it at
Yeah.
least give her a little bit of agency? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. It gives her the tiniest shred of dignity. Whereas this gives nobody, no black woman has any dignity in this show. Not a single fucking black woman has integrity other than Olivia. That's it. Nobody else
Yeah.
has any integrity whatsoever. They're either fighting on behalf of the master and the white man, they're
Hmm.
accepting the plight that's given to them, but then fighting against people that are trying to help them, or
Yeah.
they think they're fucking better than everybody and they're actively sabotaging other black people. Like, it's disgusting.
And it continuously pisses me off that it's just so untrue to
Yep.
actual history. Like,
Yep.
why?
It's harmful.
Why?
It's harmful. Like, I thought, like, so I have feelings about Hamilton.
Yeah, that's fair.
A lot of feelings about Hamilton. I know it's not a book, but if you ever have a Hamilton podcast, I would love to be on it. I have a lot of feelings about that because that too is revisionist history. What I
Hmm.
like about that is that they go, this is revisionist history, and then they start their play, right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to, they should do more
Yeah.
to really drive home that it's revisionist history, because there are a lot of white people out there that I have seen, that I have caught using Hamilton plot lines as like real history, and I'm like, nah, bro.
No.
You're
No.
thinking
No.
of
No.
a
No.
musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're not
Yeah.
thinking about actual history, right? Like, that's embarrassing for them, right? There are people out there who believe what they're being sold in that musical. But what sucks about this is that this is trying to tell you that it is real. This is trying to show you, hey, this is how bad it was. But instead, they just circumvent that and like instead like drive home how like ugly black people can be. Like, somehow I'm like,
Yeah.
why is this show about how like black people are mean to each other? Like, that's literally my takeaway from the show.
Yeah. And
White
then like
people were there, but it was mostly black people being terrible.
yeah, and then it's all like, oh, look at how hard these white people have it. Like the entire
Like,
time.
so then Margaret like dashes her drink in Dana's face as the comeuppance. This
Yeah.
tea is not hot enough. Throws it in her fucking face, right? Like, fuck you. Go get me another tea. Dana looks her in her eyes and gives her an evil look. She doesn't get beat for staring this white woman in her eyes, even though we've already discussed that people get beat for staring white people in their eyes in this time period.
Yes.
Margaret's sister looks horrified, which I'm like, sure, you're super horrified that your sister fucking threw some fucking brown water in this lady's face. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
There are worse things. There are worse things than getting a little damp. Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Fucking Dana goes back. Fucking Sarah's like, oh, tea wasn't hot enough. Like, it's happened to her before. Right? Just dumb.
Yeah.
Just bullshit. Right? Then like Dana comes back. Margaret's out of the room. Fucking Dana tells Margaret her entire like backstory, basically. Not that she's from the future, but just like about Rufus and Tom and Kevin, right? Like, shows her entire hand. Oh, I have to be here.
No, this is first.
Oh,
Rufus
that's
comes
right.
home.
That's when they try to leave. Okay.
Yeah.
Cut
Yeah. Yeah.
that part out.
Well, it's fine. We'll come right back to it though in a second.
Cut that part.
We're almost there.
So like Tom sells Luke.
Yep.
That's what happens before that.
Yep.
They like Kevin is clearly distressed by this show that they're watching in this basement.
Yeah.
Gets the heebie-jeebies big time.
Yep.
Freaks out and is like, we gotta go. We gotta leave. And Tom's like, oh yeah, okay, fine. I see you're squeamish. Let's go. He like insinuates he doesn't have the stomach for it. So then like they get on the road. He's like, where's Luke? Because Kevin stopped to like worry about Luke. And Luke was like, don't worry about me. It's not doing me any fucking favors. Right? Out of nowhere, Luke is sold. Out of nowhere. Like, there's no scene that I saw. I could have been tuning this out because it's been very hard to watch.
So there
like,
was a scene.
Okay. All right.
So basically what happens was the guy that said he had a slave at home
barber.
that does his hair said, "Yeah, your guy is getting a shoe shined like a white man." Blah blah
Mhm.
blah. That's who he sells Luke to. Is that guy?
There we go. Yeah, because he
Yeah,
thinks he's too good.
yeah.
Mhm.
So he's like, that guy, your slave is something special or something. That's what he says. And he's like, "Oh, special. Here you go." Like gives him.
But so this is what I'm saying. So this strange white dude is like he's special because he's getting a shoe shine like a white man. I'm like, even if this white guy thought it was a novelty, no white man would ever look at him like that because he'd be like, "You think you're fucking too good."
Yeah.
The word uppity is something that people have used for black people since like the 1700s, right? 1600s. Uppity is like you think you're better than everybody kind of thing.
Hmm.
And like it's something that people will still use today. Somebody called me uppity one time and I was like, HR right now.
I
Like,
did not know that. That's where
yeah.
that came from.
Yeah, it's bad. There's
Okay.
actually a joke about it on The Office.
Hmm.
One time, Michael Scott calls Stanley uppity, and Stanley's like, "What the fuck did you say to me?" Like, there's like a moment where he's like,
Yeah.
he's real uppity, and Stanley's like, "What?" And then Michael Scott goes, "I'm talking about Dwight." Like, immediately pivots, like, "I'm not talking about you, Stanley. Don't worry about it," because he realizes his mistake.
Yeah.
But like an uppity negress, an uppity negro is what they
Mhm.
would call, and then you'd have to break them, of course, of their uppityness by beating the shit out of them until they were like not a person anymore,
Mhm.
and then build them back up again so that they would comply and do what you wanted, right? The same way you would with a horse, basically.
Yeah.
A horse bucks you off of it, you don't get rid of the horse, you beat it into submission until it's broken and does what you want because it's so afraid to live. So like that's the reality, right? So the idea that this man would be like, "Yeah, I want your slave that doesn't know his place. Give him to me. I
Yeah.
would relish the challenge." Like, no, that would
No.
never fucking happen.
No.
So like
It's
I
so
was
much
wondering,
bullshit.
I was too distracted by the black guys outside is what it was.
That's
Cuz I
fair.
was like, "Why are they outside just chilling?" Like,
Yeah, I was just listening at this point because I
yeah.
was like writing notes and then I was scrolling on my phone because I'm like, I don't care anymore.
So what's so funny about
Yeah.
this show acting like Luke not having a Luke getting a shoe shine like a white man wasn't a big deal? The thing that's so fucking crazy is like just a couple of days ago, the rap group Outcast,
Mm-hmm.
they posted a picture online that's like a teaser for their new album because they've been working on new music. And it's a
Hmm.
huge deal. Outkast hasn't had a new album in forever, right? People are like losing their minds.
Yeah.
Big Boy and Andre 3000 got into a fight. They weren't working together, weren't speaking for a minute. So like it's a big deal that they're coming back, right?
Hmm.
So they have this brand new picture of the two of them, right? That's supposed to be controversial. And it is. So the picture is like a double wide. It looks almost like a gatefold of an album because it's a longer picture,
Hmm.
and on it shows two black models, two black woman models
Hmm.
that are fully nude and like kind of draped with this fabric, and they're
Hmm.
holding these like crystal things that make it look like, it kind of makes it look like they're both light fixtures, like they're chandelier fixtures.
Hmm.
Absolutely gorgeous image. The coloring and everything is
I'm
absolutely beautiful.
nervous.
So there's one on each side,
Hmm.
and then there's a shoe shine booth in the middle
Hmm.
that has two seats or three seats. I think the center seat is empty.
Hmm.
There are two white men shining shoes, and the men that are getting their shoes shined are Big Boy and Andre 3000. So in 2022, it is still considered subversive for a black man to get a shoe shine, so much so that it is in this picture
Hmm.
of one of the most subversive rap groups of all time, right? Like they subverted all kinds of stereotypes, especially Andre 3000,
Hmm.
right? Like they're a hip hop group that has always kind of pushed the envelope. So the fact that they think this is pushing the envelope in 2022, but this show is trying to tell you that it's fine for a black slave to get a shoe shine in 1816 is like, I saw it and my brain shut down. I didn't know what to do. I had
Yeah.
literally just seen this picture earlier in the day before watching this
Okay.
episode.
Tell me if I'm crazy because I feel like I remember something like this happening during segregation where a black man tried to get his shoes shined and like it like caused like an entire
Yeah.
riot. That happened, right? Like I'm not
I'm
making that
pretty
up.
sure, yeah. Like, I mean, honestly, there were numerous situations like that because again, uppity.
Hmm.
It showed that black people thought that they were equal. And there
Hmm.
were people who were like, "No, you're not. You're a Negro. You'll always be beneath us." And there are still people who feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, look at the Brittany Griner thing. People are like, "Oh, so you went to go get her because you're woke. You guys traded her because she's black and a woman and queer. And,
Yeah.
obviously she's what, worth more than the white man?" There's a white male journalist in prison. Like the extradition would have been the same for both of them. Like their
Yeah.
crimes and what they're being held for are even close to being similar. Like there were any options whatsoever. Like, no.
Like all I'm saying is if you want a closer adaptation of Kindred, I would highly recommend going and watching what is that? The Gerard Way movie when Allison goes back in time.
Oh,
Yes.
Umbrella Academy.
Umbrella Academy. I feel
So
like
that holds up all of the actual markers of the time period,
mhm,
all the unpleasantness of the time period, and then gives their heroine the agency,
yeah.
right? Advocates for her to
Mhm.
make change, right? And is she able to make huge change? No. Does she make incremental change?
Mhm.
Yes. Was there already incremental change happening at that time? Yes. And that's why she's able to affect this world, because
Yeah.
she knows that Dr. King is out there. She knows Malcolm X is out there. She
Mhm.
knows that like the ball is already rolling.
Yeah.
So all she's doing is making sure the ball is rolling where she's at, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Like
Perfect example.
better
Perfect example. Yes.
better interpretation of
Yes.
what Octavia Butler would have wanted in
Absolutely.
there than this. Hold on, I'm looking at the photo you sent me. This is actually a beautiful photo. When you said it was
Yeah.
very controversial, I was very scared about what you're about to tell me about this photo because I don't know who Outcast is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Are they the
So
one that sings "Hey Ya"?
yes, they are.
Okay,
Yep. Hmm.
I like that song.
And I'm sorry, Miss Jackson.
Yes.
That
Okay.
song.
I
That's
don't know
Outcast.
any band groups or singers' names. Like I know
Yeah.
their song, but I don't know
Yeah.
any names. I'm very bad with names.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like that's what I'm saying. Like if that is controversial in
Mhm.
2022, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like what are we doing in this show? I
Mhm.
don't
I don't. I don't
lots,
know. I
lots
don't
of
know.
sighs on this podcast.
Yeah.
Lots of sighing. The Barely Bookish Sighcast.
Yeah. Whenever someone cuts all of my sighing and just puts it together, that would be pretty good. Put it to the
Oh
beat
my
of a good
god.
song. Thank you.
Yep. Sighing supercut.
Yeah. I want it like when they like make one word sound like an entire song.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I want to happen with all of my sighing for this. Put it to a good song though.
Oh my god. So like
Put it to
that
"Hey Ya" by
that's
Outcast now because it's in my
uh,
head. Figure it out. I don't know. Someone's got
so
good
good.
technology for it.
So good. That's fan art if I ever heard of it. So then Lucas sold. Kevin's like, wait, Lucas sold? Right?
Mhm.
So they're trying to like go back to the plantation or whatever. And then we cut to I guess these scenes kind of take place simultaneously, right? Like
Yeah, it's all like
them in the woods and then like the conversation with Margaret and Dana
yeah,
back
yeah,
at the house.
yeah.
So Margaret and Dana and May, Margaret's sister, back at the
Mhm.
house. Dana realizes like May tells Margaret like you got to leave him. Like this boy
Yeah,
came back, he's drunk again. You told me he already died. He almost died from alcohol poisoning, which we know was actually the cake. But he
yeah,
almost already died, right? He's drinking too young. He's going to grow up shiftless and shitty just like his fucking dad. Like you got to get him out of here. So
yeah,
Margaret's like fuck that, I'm leaving. She packs a bag. Dana runs out of the house screaming at the top of her lungs to stop them from leaving, throws herself in front of the horse and carriage. Like, could not have given three fucks about Rufus 5 minutes ago, but is
yeah,
now like, he can't leave. And in my mind, I'm like, let him go.
yeah,
Like, there's never a moment in the book where he can go. Like, if he goes, maybe that ends her purview. Maybe she goes back to her time and is just a different person. Like, she doesn't know what's going to happen. And
yeah.
she clearly doesn't care enough about herself to like even manage because she's shitty and alienates herself from an entire fucking family. So
Literally.
like why this woman even gives a shit if she goes back home? She has nothing waiting for her there,
Yeah.
right? Like she has nothing to tether her. At least in the book she had Kevin. She has nothing to tether her to that world
Mhm.
whatsoever. All her family is completely dead. Her mom is back in this time, her dad is gone. Like she has no reason to return to the future. They completely overwrote all of that, right?
Yeah.
So she's like running after the fucking wagon and shit. She tells Margaret her entire hand, hey, I'm from the future. Hey, I'm the person who fucking saved Rufus when he was a baby. Hey, I'm the person who saved Rufus when he was drowning. It's my job to save him and make sure that he's safe. I'm his guardian angel, right? Basically
Mhm.
lays out every single card that she has. And Margaret's like, you're the fucking devil. What she thought was going to happen, I could not tell you.
Yeah.
Everybody back then thought everything was the devil. A fucking dog that farted on a Sunday was the fucking devil for some
Yeah.
people back then. Like everything was the devil. So why this woman would think that this is going to go over well, like she has no concept of the future. Margaret Whalen is an idiot, right? If you
Yeah.
were going to say that to anybody, Tom Whalen would have been a better fucking person to say it to, right? And then you're also fucking giving this woman a statement of your like ability as well, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're not just saying, "Oh, hey, I belong to Master Kevin," right? Now you're saying, "Well, not only am I a witch,
Yeah.
but in addition to being a witch,
Uh-huh.
right, I also am responsible for your child's life or death,"
Mhm.
which like is not the fucking flex that she thinks it is. If you're responsible for someone's life, that means you're also responsible for their death. And that's the
Yeah.
first thing Margaret Whalen thinks of. You're not going to
Yeah.
kill my baby,
Yep.
right? I'm taking him away. I'm like,
Yep.
this is so fucking stupid. This
So
is the
stupid.
dumbest shit. She goes out back to Jake. They're
Mhm.
taking Master Rufus away. You got to get him. Help, Jake. And Jake's just like, mind
Mind
your
your business.
business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, how is she saying this to this man? We can't decide how this man is treated. Is he worse than a slave? Is he better than a
I don't
slave? What's
know.
the story here? He
Yeah.
works for Tom but has no problem undercutting him. Like, what? What?
I don't
What?
know.
What?
I want someone to just please, for the love of God, make an animated version of this like book. Just I don't know how you're gonna do it, but for some reason in my head I feel like this is more achievable, maybe.
Yo, like
But like I I don't care what you have to do. I just found out that there's an anime version of Anne of Green Gables. And if Anne of Green
yes.
Gables can get an anime version, this deserves it. I I don't care if it's like slightly more hyped up and like scary what you have to change, but I need something to watch that's better than this version.
It's really bad and I'm so upset about it. Like
Yeah.
fucking Kevin gets left in the woods by Tom Whalen because he finally realizes that he's not who he seems. He's like, you don't know how to ride a horse. You don't know how to
Yeah.
fucking do anything of this time. Like, you're not a man of this time. It's really obvious to me. You've got these like you're just a weirdo. Like, you fucking love your slave. And Tom's like, yeah. I mean, Kevin's like, yeah, but you loved Winnie. And he's like, I would never love a slave. 5 minutes ago, Luke was your brother.
Yeah.
But you could never love a slave.
But
They're
it's
not
like,
capable of it, he
why is
says.
Kevin so, or not Kevin, yeah, Kevin's so stupid that he's like, yeah, let me
Idiot.
pick a fight with Tom right now when Tom's in a very vulnerable position. Like, Tom just sold someone he just mentioned as being like basically his brother.
Yep.
Just sold him. Just sent his son home
Yep.
and
To
is
make a point.
to make a point is
Yep.
currently testing you, and you think now is the greatest time alive to fight with him when you are not even at his home. You're nowhere near Dana. You have no way of getting back there.
No idea where you are.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, let me fight with Tom right now. Like, I would shut the fuck up,
Yep.
make sure I get back there, get to
Yep.
Dana, and be like, we gotta go.
I would have said whatever was necessary, dude.
Yeah,
If I were in a reverse situation where like I had to sell my partner out, I'd be like, Jason will forgive me. He'll understand.
yeah,
Right? Like Piper will come around. I'll tell
yeah,
them exactly what happened and they'll both be like, "You know what? You made the right choice because you're
yeah.
alive and you're here and I don't hold it against you." Like no person that loves you is going to be like, "How dare you not declare your love to this racist man?" Like what?
Literally. Like, I would have
What?
lied through my teeth
Yep.
just to get back to my
Dan
partner.
who?
Yeah,
I don't know
who?
him.
Don't
I
know
don't know
him.
him.
I don't know him.
I've never seen him before in my life.
Yeah,
Like,
knowing if I, as long as I knew Daniel is at home safe, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know.
mm,
Let's just go back there though. I like think I love something. We should probably just go
yep,
back. Get the fuck out of this house. Get
yep.
out of the house.
You know what? He was being real wily earlier. Let me check on him, make sure he
Yeah,
doesn't
let
do
me.
any of that running away. You know,
Yeah,
like
you know.
we slave owners have stuff we gotta, you gotta check in on people time
Yeah,
to
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like that's what I would have done, dude. I would have fucking faked it till I made it. And like,
Literally.
so then the show is like, even though he's in the wild, like the wilderness of Baltimore, he
Mhm.
somehow finds his way back to Olivia's cabin.
No,
Sure,
no, he's
sure,
been there once. Keep in mind,
sure.
he's not like Dana. He's only been there the one time.
Yep. But he's like, I don't have a compass on my extra dead iPhone or anything. Let me
Yeah,
just follow the stars and follow the North Star. Okay, well, that's not going
yeah,
to take you to the cabin. That's just going
yep.
to take you north, bro. Like, what? Kicks him off the horse, too. So he's got to walk all of that on foot in the dark in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
There are
Mm-hmm.
people who have whole ass maps and compasses that get lost in the forest in the night.
Exactly. He's like, oh, this very convenient strip highway that I'm on. I'm sure no one else will come across me. Let me
I'm
just
going to follow the dirt
no.
road. Like,
Yeah.
so
So
then like
stupid.
he gets to Olivia's house. Olivia's like, "Oh, I got to go get Dana." Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, Sure, the show is fucking off the rails at this point. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't even
I mean,
I don't
I'd
even
get it.
understand.
Like, if you're parent, I could be like understanding. Yeah, let me run in there.
Yeah,
Consequences be damned. You know.
sure, but not this lady. And
Yeah.
then like he's there alone with Alice, that's now who suddenly now has a name and is wielding a shotgun and is important out of
After
nowhere.
he lets Winnie out, He's like, "Yeah,
Listen,
you're still here."
listen, listen. Like,
Why is
so
Winnie
like
still there?
especially because in that because I think that like there was no way to get her out. She was always gonna stay there. Dana lied to Kevin because Kevin's like, "Are you sure you don't know where Winnie is? You should just return her. Like, just
Yeah.
return her." And Dana swore up and down, looked him in his fucking eyes, and was like, "Nope, I don't know where she went. She's long gone." That's
Yeah.
why, because she lied
Oh,
to him.
okay.
So I'm like, he's not even mad that she lied. Like, this is a pretty big fucking lie that's
Yeah.
gonna hurt everybody, right?
Yeah.
So like that shit with Winnie was fucking off the rails. And then like Tom comes home and he's drunk
Hmm.
and he summons Dana. And I'm like, so they're gonna have Tom proposition Dana instead of Rufus propositioning Dana?
I guess.
Like, what is happening? And then he's like, he's talking to Dana and he's like, why would you even want that minstrel? So I'm like,
Thomas
okay,
Jefferson who? Like
gaff, a minstrel. So number one, I get
uh-huh.
it. A minstrel, right? To anybody who likes medieval shit, a
Mhm.
minstrel is like a bard, right? A
Yeah.
traveling musician is a minstrel.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But at this time, minstrelsy was again a negative stereotype of black people, right?
Mhm.
Minstrels were people who were considered unserious, right?
Mhm.
Fucking jackanapes, like people who are very kind of like fly by the seat of their pants. And a
Mhm.
minstrel show was a show that either black people would put on, right? Slaves would put on for their white owners, or
Mhm.
later on, it was a show of blackface, was a minstrel
Oh
show,
my god.
right? Was
Yeah.
like dressing up in blackface and acting like a black person and doing like weird shit as a black person. So, like, minstrel at this time meant something very different. So, for him to call Kevin a minstrel, for me, I was like, the people who are writing this don't even like know their history. They haven't read a
Yeah.
single history book apparently. Like, what are you talking about, a minstrel? Like, he would never call him that. He would call him a musician because that's what he was, right?
Mhm.
That's what he is. And like Tom is like going hard at Dana, like trying to fucking like convince her that like she needs to be with him, and then like shit talking her when she's like talking about how she belongs to Mr. Kevin, and like the conversation gets like really gross and weird, and like he gets really upset that she's like saying no to him. And I'm like, like they never set up that he had eyes for Dana, never,
Yeah.
especially because in the book Tom is kind of grossed out by Dana because she can read and she's like looks like a man because she has really short hair, and Tom is like, I don't know what you see in her. Like, Tom is
Yeah.
just like, ew, right? Like,
Yeah.
Tom would never go for Dana like that. He does not understand what Kevin sees in Dana at all, right? Other than the fact that he's like, he makes a joke about how obedient she must be to him because
Mhm.
that's the only reason he would have her,
Yeah.
because she's not even pretty,
It's
like he
a
says.
Thomas Jefferson moment if I've ever seen one.
Seriously,
Like
it was nuts.
I am so like so you're telling me that Dana's gonna get raped by Tom Whalen and then possibly raped by Rufus later?
I don't understand. So like then he's like stepping towards her. She's stepping back. I can't remember how it gets broken up because I was so incensed. I was just
Yeah.
furiously typing notes at this point.
Yeah.
And then we get to the next scene, which is like Kevin trying to chase Winnie and Winnie like using a knife to try and get what she wants, right? I don't even know how that scene ends. I couldn't tell you because
I don't know. It like hard cut
like,
away.
fuck it.
She's like,
Yeah.
"Give me your clothes," and he was like, and then a hard cut
Right.
away, and then he
So he
shows up.
goes back to the cabin. Fucking Alice has a fucking gun in her hand, right? For no reason.
What a queen! First of all,
Like,
it's like 10 years old, shotgun.
so then like we flash back over to Dana in the cookhouse with Aunt Sarah, and Aunt Sarah's like no, in the house. She's in the house.
Yeah,
That's who it's
upstairs.
I think, right. So she's upstairs. She brings Dana food,
Hmm.
and Dana's like, I'm not eating that. Like, she's afraid that Aunt Sarah's gonna poison her now.
Honestly, fair though, because like Sarah's poisoned everybody in this house.
Right, but if Tom Whalen knows that Aunt Sarah wields poison, because Tom is the reason that Aunt Sarah brings Dana food, because Tom is like, hey, go feed her. She needs some food. I'm gonna like keep working on her. It's kind of like implied that he wants to keep working on her.
Yeah.
So he has Aunt Sarah bring her food so that she can be strong to serve him the following day.
Mhm.
And like Aunt Sarah brings the food. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Tom doesn't know Aunt Sarah poisoned him,
Yeah.
or she wouldn't still be alive, right? He thinks it was Winnie. So
Mhm.
like, why does Dana think that Aunt Sarah is poisoning her if she was sent by Tom? And
Sarah
then Aunt
cooks the
Sarah's
food, I
talking,
guess. I don't know.
but still, like, what
Lots of
power does she have?
stretches.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then she's like stepping toward Dana, and Dana keeps stepping back like she's terrified of Aunt Sarah. And Aunt
Yeah.
Sarah has this really menacing vibe, like she's gonna cause her harm. And
Yeah.
then she fucking looks her in her face, right? She says something, Aunt Sarah says something about how Luke got what he deserved, which I'm like, Aunt Sarah would never fucking say
No.
that. All of her children have been sold off and her husband, and she says Luke got what he deserved. Fucking no.
No.
Never in a
No.
thousand years would she say that, number one. And then number two, Dana is looking at her, like sizes her up, backs up so far that she's like on the bed at this point, right? She's
Mhm.
terrified for her life by this slight built, fucking tall, skinny fucking black lady, which
Mhm.
like she's built like a willow tree. I don't know why anybody would be scared of her.
Yeah.
But she like rolls up on Dana and gets all in Dana's face. And Dana like sizes her up and like stares at her and is like, I thought you weren't even allowed in the house. And pulls like
Yeah, like what the like
pulls like the fucking outside slave card. I'm like,
what?
time out. First of all, Dana's way too dark to be working in the house in the first place. All right.
Yeah.
So literally pot calling kettle black. Literally.
Mhm.
Okay. Number one. And then number two, you're gonna be like, why are you in the house?
Yeah.
To which Aunt Sarah's like, well, the reason I'm not in the house is gone. And Dana's like, Margaret. And that's like the end of the scene. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It just doesn't make sense. I
like it's almost funny if it weren't so fucking offensive.
Yeah.
Like it would be hilarious if it weren't
Mhm.
so offensive. Yo.
Oh, and then
I think that's how it ends. I don't know.
no, we got the scene of Dana over like fucking eavesdropping on Tom and Jake
Mhm.
talking about Margaret being gone, and her head is like fully in the door. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, have you never eavesdropped before?
Idiocy.
Like,
Idiocy.
oh my god. And then we have that. And then oh no, we got into episode 8 a little bit. Winnie had
Mhm.
just ran.
Oh, that's right.
Which is
We end the
fine.
previous episode where Winnie had just run. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't matter. The storyline's so fucked up. Nothing makes sense
Who gives
anymore.
a shit?
Yeah,
man,
whatever.
like-
Who cares?
Anyway.
Yeah, moving right along. That's where that episode ends. The next episode we have is going to finish up the rest of this series. It's gonna be a lot, but after this series, I can promise we're gonna get into some fun interview with a vampire thing, so it'll all be worth it.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'll get Candace again, so it's gonna be great. Hang in there. It's gonna be fine. We're holding your hand. We watched it, so you don't have to.
That's it.
Yep.
And if for some reason you do want to watch it, just to hate watch it, just recognize that it's bad.
Yep.
It's real bad.
Yep. Like if they put a season 2 out, I might hate watch it just because at this point, like, this is so off the rails that I'm like, what's gonna happen? Like, what are you gonna try and do to fix this?
Agree. If you want to hate watch season 2, should it come to that, I will be back.
Okay, because I kind of want to know, but like I would not be displeased if they don't do a season 2. Like, I'd kind of be thankful because at least
I'd be so grateful. If they did season 2, I would. Part of the reason I'd watch it is to see if maybe like season 1 was like handheld by some white people that like didn't know what the fuck they were saying or doing, and then season 2 they're like, you know what, we trust you.
Yeah,
go ahead and tell your story, and then it's better. But I don't know. I highly doubt that.
I highly doubt it too. But
I highly doubt that.
Hopeful. I don't know.
I don't understand how you can show torture on American Horror Story on FX. Like all kinds of weird shit. People get their eyeballs ripped out. People getting eviscerated. Entrails flowing all over the floor. But you can't give an accurate portrayal of slavery.
I'm saying, like,
it's absolutely white fragility. Like it's 110% white fragility.
Yeah.
If a white person is harming another white person, that's fine. If a black person's harming another black person, that's fine. If a white person's harming a black person, no. That's apparently where we draw the line here.
Literally, I'm like, just at this point, being accurate would have been less offensive.
100%. 100%. That's so sad. That's so sad.
It's so sad. It's so fucked up. Yep. There's another sighing soundbite for you all.
There you go.
But we will catch you all in the next episode. Candace, where can the people of the internet find you and the stuff you're working on?
You can find me at that Candace girl over on Twitter and at Candace the Magnificent on Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. I am a TTRPG performer, voice actor, and a musician. I stream on Twitch. I do video games and ukulele concerts and Lego builds, and I do TTRPGs live on Twitch. Please definitely follow me on those platforms to check out the stuff that I'm doing if any of that interests you.
Yeah. And just be here next week.
I sure will.
Woohoo. And we'll catch you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.